In a world drowning in darkness, in an age defined by chaos and contradiction, one man's heart ached for the light. To truly understand the story, we must first transport ourselves to the city of Mecca in the 7th century. Picture it: a vibrant, bustling hub of commerce, a crossroads of caravans laden with silks and spices. But beneath this veneer of prosperity lay a society afflicted by a deep spiritual sickness. Power was the ultimate virtue, and wealth was the highest god. The weak were trampled, the orphans were cheated of their inheritance, and tribal pride was a raging fire that consumed generations in endless cycles of vengeance and warfare. And at the heart of the city stood the Kaaba, the ancient house built by Abraham for the worship of the one true God, now desecrated, filled with 360 idols of stone and wood. Men would bow to gods their own hands had carved, pouring out their devotion to lifeless objects while the commands of the Creator were forgotten. It was a world broken, lost, and desperately in need of a cure. And amidst this turmoil was a man, approaching his 40th year, known even by those who worshipped idols as Al-Amin, the trustworthy. His name was Muhammad, son of Abdullah. He was a man of the people, yet apart from them. His soul could find no peace in the society below. He saw the hypocrisy. He felt the pain of the oppressed, and a burning question echoed in the chambers of his heart. Surely this is not what we were created for. And so he sought an escape. Not an escape from his people, but an escape for them. He needed answers. He needed to connect with the divine truth he felt stirring within him, the ancient faith of his forefather, Abraham. His journey would often lead him away from the city, to the towering, sun-scorched peak of Jabal al-Nawr, the mountain of light. With a humble supply of dates and water, enough for several days, he would make the strenuous climb over sharp rocks and winding paths. Each step was a deliberate act of separation from the world of noise and confusion, and a step closer to a world of solitude and contemplation. He would ascend until he reached a tiny, secluded sanctuary, an opening in the rock face just big, enough for a man to prostrate, the cave of Hira. This was his refuge. From this vantage point, nestled between the vast, silent desert and the star-filled heavens, he could see the distant lights of the city he had left behind. Here, in the profound silence, punctuated only by the whistling of the wind, he would spend his days and nights in deep meditation. He would ponder the intricate design of the universe. Who set the sun on its course? Who hung the stars like lanterns in the night sky? And who was the lord of the ancient house he could see far below? His soul was in a state of searching, yearning for a truth he knew must exist. For years, this was his custom, seeking, searching, and waiting, until one night, a night that would not just change his life, but would pivot the very axis of human history. He was alone, immersed in his meditations, when the familiar peace of the cave was shattered. Suddenly, an overwhelming presence filled the space, a power so immense it felt as if the mountain itself was trembling. Before him stood an ethereal being, radiating a light and majesty he had never conceived of. It was the archangel Gabriel, the messenger of God. The angel's presence was so powerful, so absolute, that it seemed to compress the very air in the cave. And then a voice, a command that echoed not just in his ears, but in the very fabric of his being, spoke a single, earth-shattering word: Iqra, read. He was paralyzed with a mixture of awe and terror. How could he read? He was an unlettered man, known amongst his people for his wisdom and character, but not for poetry or letters. His reply was simple, human, and honest. I am not a reader. It was a statement of fact, a plea of helplessness before an impossible command. But the angel was insistent. Jibril seized him in a powerful embrace, squeezing him with a celestial force until he felt all the air leave his body, until he thought he could bear it no more. This was not an embrace of aggression, but a divine preparation, a spiritual realignment that was pushing his human vessel beyond its known limits to make it ready for the weight of God's words. When released, the command came again, even more, forcefully. Iqra! Read, again his answer, born of pure bewilderment and distress, was the same. I am not a reader. For a second time, the angel embraced him, tighter and longer than before, until he was on the verge of collapse. And for a third and final time, the command thundered in the silence of the cave. Iqra! But this time, after pushing him past the absolute threshold of his own ability, the angel gave him the key. He didn't just command him what to do, he told him how it was possible, saying, "Read in the name of your Lord who created, in the name of Allah." That was the answer. The focus shifted from his inability to the Creator's infinite ability. It wasn't about him. It was about the power of the one who was giving the command. In the name of your Lord, you can do anything, and right here, in this very first moment, lies one of the most profound lessons for all of humanity. Think about it. The very first word revealed of the Quran was read. In a society steeped in oral tradition where literacy was rare, the first command was to seek knowledge. It established that this was to be a faith built on intellect, on reflection, on learning. But it immediately pairs this command with the method for all success, seeking the help of the Creator. When you face a task that feels impossible, this moment teaches us where to turn. Nothing is impossible in the name of Allah. And so, with his heart unlocked, the first divine words flowed from his tongue, words that he had never heard, from a book he had never seen. Read in the name of your Lord who created. He created mankind from a clinging clot. Stop and reflect on this. In a society obsessed with tribal status and noble lineage, the first revelation reminds all of humanity of its humble, shared origin, a woe. Fragile clot of blood, it is a radical declaration of equality. Read, and your Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught man that which he knew not. The pen, the symbol of civilization, of learning, of preserving knowledge through generations. God is announcing that knowledge itself is a gift from him, and true learning is an act of worship. When the angel departed, he was left trembling, his heart pounding, overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of what had just occurred. He scrambled out of the cave and descended the mountain, the sacred words still echoing in his soul. He was no longer just Muhammad, son of Abdullah, the trustworthy merchant. He was now the messenger of Allah, carrying a light that would illuminate the world. But his journey was just beginning, and it all started with one word and one key, to begin in the name of his Lord.